go on a bulk, they're eating like an extra 1,000 calories every day, and that is just gonna put on unwanted body fat. So if you What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be looking at a video from Mike Israetel titled 5 Things Everyone Gets Wrong About Building Muscle. But specifically, we're going to be taking a look at mistake number 1 because I got some things to say about it, so let's get right into it.
Number one thing that a ton of people get wrong about bulking is assuming that you don't have to bulk, assuming that you don't need to gain weight if you're interested in getting much more jacked. Now, if you're very over fat, that is true. If you start out at 250 pounds, very, very, very pudgy, I'll just put that charitably, you cut all the way down to 170, and over very many years, you gain back up to 210 pounds, but lean, you're going to be able to get very jacked. 210 pounds is jacked for someone who's like 6'2". Holy crap, drug-free. And at that point, it's like, well, look, I lost from 250 on net to 210, didn't gain, and I still got jacked. Facts, but you have to be really fat for that to work out.
Okay, so first off, he brings up you actually do need to be in a calorie surplus to gain muscle. Now, is this actually true? Yes. Unless, like he says, if you're very, very fat or you're overweight, then what can happen is if you're in a deficit, your body can use the stored energy from fat and can convert that into muscle. But let's say you take someone who's very skinny and doesn't have, like, let's say they don't have a lot of muscle. They're very, very skinny, don't have a lot of muscle. They don't have fat to convert into muscle. So yes, they technically, in order to gain muscle, you actually do have to be in a slight calorie surplus. The problem, though, is when people do go and they say, oh, I'm gonna bulk and I'm gonna be in a surplus and whatever, they put themselves in way too big of a surplus, and that just causes them to get more fat than actually build muscle. So it takes around about 2,700 calories to put on 1 pound of muscle. So you're thinking, well, obviously, then you need to be in a massive calorie surplus in order to gain those 2,700 calories. The problem is, our body has a really, really efficient way of storing extra calories as fat instead of muscle. And there are 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. So if you over bulk or you go in too great of a bulk, most of those calories are just going to go straight to body fat. And because the muscle building process happens so slowly and research shows you can't force feed muscle growth. Let's just say theoretically you are in a 100 calorie surplus every single day. If you do the math on that, that's around 36,500 calories every year. And then if we divide that by how many calories it takes to put on a pound of muscle, so divide that by 2,700, we're going to get around 13.6 pounds of muscle in 1 year. So, yes, in order to build muscle, you do have to be in a calorie surplus, a very, very small one. The problem is 100 calorie surplus every day for a year straight will put on around 13.6 pounds of muscle, but a 100 calorie surplus, you can't track that. One, because labels lie, people suck at tracking, there's inaccuracies and stuff like that. One website may say it has this many calories versus this many, so you can't really track in 100 calorie surplus. So what you actually do is you gain and you take an intuitive approach to that. Now, you can try your best to track it with all the macro factor apps and whatever, but it will never be 100% accurate. And because 100 calories every day is so small, that's so incredibly difficult to track that it's probably going to be off by 100 calories up or down. So, really, you can't guarantee or know for sure that you're going to be in that 100 calorie surplus every day. Some days you might be higher and some you might be lower. So, yes, you do need to bulk technically a little bit to put on muscle, but the surplus is so freaking small that it's basically pointless to try and track that.
If you are a person that weighs, let's say, 160 pounds, and you're not fat, and you want to get jacked, let's say you want to have the kind of jacked look that a 190 pounder has, you're not going to get it unless you weigh 190 pounds. And by physics definition, by physiological definition, you cannot maintain your weight from 160 pounds to 190 pounds. It is impossible. You have to do a surplus. If you intuitively do that surplus, cool. If you purposefully do that surplus, cool.
Yeah, if people intuitively do that surplus, what's going to happen is they're going to eat way too many calories and they're just going to start getting fat. They're just going to start getting fat because guess what? Normally, when people go on a bulk, they're eating like an extra 1,000 calories every day, and that is just going to put on unwanted body fat. So if you're truly trying to optimize your muscle growth, no more than like an 100 calorie surplus every day. But the problem is, again, you can't track that. That's why we call it main gaining. Get it? Because you're keeping your body fat the same while slowly building muscle. Now, if you do main gain or whatever and you keep your body fat the same and you slowly build muscle and your scale weight goes up, if your body fat stays the exact same, you're actually putting on a little bit of fat. If the scale weight is going up, you will be putting on fat because body fat is the body fat percentage. It's a percent composition of the mass on your body. So if you weigh more, the percent equates to how much you weigh. So if you take a 190-pound person at 15% body fat versus an 160-pound person at 15% body fat, they're both 15% body fat, but the person who's 190 pounds has more total fat mass on them because they weigh more.
You're going to have to bulk one way or the other. So, because there's at least about a year ago, there was this huge thing going over the fitness internet about like bulking is a myth and bulking is stupid, is bulking dead? And there are nuanced arguments for that, like way too excessive bulking, which we'll get to in a bit, is definitely a problem. But the idea that you could just maintain or gain your way or gaintain your way into a jacked physique is just not true almost every time.
Main gaining or whatever is technically being in that small little surplus or whatever. But the problem, like I said before, is you can't track that. Some days you're going to be in a surplus, some days you're going to be in a deficit, but if you keep your body fat the same and you small wee little calorie surplus that you can't even track, you're slowly going to build muscle over time. But if, like he says, if definitely don't do the dirty bulk or shit like that, going a massive surplus, that is stupid. So yes, do you have to bulk technically to build muscle? Correct, you do. Unless, like he says, when you're completely morbidly obese. The surplus, though, is like 50 to 100 calories every day. No one's tracking that. 50 extra calories is like you go in the pantry and you eat 5 extra chips. That's 50 calories. how can you accurately track that? You can't. So it has to be an intuitive approach, and over time, you'll slowly build muscle, which is main gaining.
Don't bulk, don't cut. Main gain.
So I hope this video clears that up. I just wanted to go over that point for Mike because I thought that was really interesting, and it's an interesting topic. Because I know most people are all on the no, you don't have to bulk at all versus yeah, you gotta bulk and put on a shit ton of fat to build muscle. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, I guess, because technically you do have to be in a slight surplus, but the surplus is so small that it's impossible to track it, so you may as well take an intuitive approach to it. So that's my opinion. What do I know, 16-year-old idiot on YouTube? But that's going to wrap up the video, guys. If you've enjoyed, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.